Hey friends, hi, I'm Ricky Kalmon and welcome to another episode of Amplify Your Mindset. Thank you so much for your support. And if you're watching this, that's really cool because now we're starting to launch videos of these podcasts and I'm really excited about it. As many of you know, I've been really passionate about this, almost 2 years doing this podcast, and I really do appreciate your support. Please share this with others. If you're getting something out of these podcasts, even if it's just a little snippet of information, whether it's for myself or my guest, we really do appreciate you sharing this with others. And speaking of my guest, you can see him right now, is Jason Hewlett. Jason is, you know what, I have to tell you, he's not only an inspiration, he's a motivational speaker, he's now an author of a brand new book called The Promise to the One that is out on Amazon. And I highly recommend the book. It is just very compelling. And he's going to tell you all about it in a few moments. But what I love about Jason is that he has such an engaging voice, and he'll tell you about his voice background and his inflection. And I just feel like in the short time that I've gotten to know you, Jason, I feel like I know you. I feel like, you know, you've welcomed me into your circle, your inner circle of friendship, and I appreciate that. So Jason Hewlett, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Ricky. It's an honor to be a part of this. I love this podcast. Thank you for having me on, man.
That's great. And thank you, by the way, for the listeners who don't know, before we started recording, Jason goes, you know, he spent the last, I guess, taking a walk and last hour. You've been listening to previous podcasts, and I'm so overwhelmed and humbled that I know one person's listening. That's awesome.
Yeah, right. Hey, your podcasts are great. Your guests are amazing. I'm just thrilled to be one of the ones in the queue for for all those folks that are ready to listen and have their lives changed a little bit.
Yeah. So, you know, as I always start out these conversations, I always like to know a little bit more about my guests. But even if you're watching or listening or taking a walk now and listening to the podcast, we're going to try and be brief. I'm going to try and give you a lot of information. We're going to ask Jason about his history of what he's done and where he's going and what he has to offer. But understand, we really do appreciate your time. And so we're not going to throw a lot of fluff in here and just have a banter conversation. I want to go right into it. Jason, you're in the entertainment background and much like I have. And I really believe that has been the stepping stone for us to be able to take what our skills are in speaking to an audience and really, you know, move into a platform of training people. And, you know, I'm sure that, you know, you're going to share a little bit about your history, but I think that makes you so unique towards many other speakers. I've seen a lot of speakers with great content. Please, don't take this the wrong way. They're boring. I mean, they're really boring, and they have great content. I mean, they have great information, and I read their books, and I'm like, but I go see them, and they're just like, that's not you.
Well, you know, it's kind of you to say, but I'll be candid as far as the other speakers. I hear them, and I say, yeah, that kind of is a little bit dry, but man, I wish I had that kind of content or that kind of goodness, you know.
You do. You do. You're humble man. You're a humble man. And no disrespect. I just think that we're all students of life, and if we have great content, we have a great message. We should learn a way of actually being a better presenter, a better speaker, a better trainer, a better spouse, significant other, better leader, better salesperson. I think that, again, I'm going to always reinforce that to everybody listening. And if you get something out of this, be a better version of yourself.
This Amplify Your Mindset, man. I mean, it's all about the mindset. And if we're willing to put ourselves out there as far as our voice, our face, our creations, our compositions, that's what's holding most people back. We're thinking, I'm afraid of what people or haters might think. I mean, Ricky, I probably did the worst thing I could have done before coming on this show today with you. I clicked on a Facebook link that somebody had sent me about myself that I hadn't seen in 2 years, and it was a video I made. And the comments were awesome, awesome, awesome. And you know the rule, never read the comments, right? And then all of a sudden, all the haters started coming. And then there are people defending me, and then there are people justifying it. And you know, I find it fascinating that I'm on this right now with you after going through the experience of remembering what it felt like 2 years ago to be so down when people were telling me how bad I was or not great on the video. They didn't like me as, you know, in this comedy routine that I was doing. And how I feel about it today is a feeling almost of empathy for these people, because I do know what it's like to hate on other people. It's usually because I'm jealous that they're doing their dream, that they're sharing their gifts, and I haven't reached that yet. And so when we find people that are extra critical of ourselves and of us, and we're wondering, how can we share more? It's just a matter of realizing your mission, your mindset, your message, all of that in one, that you need to share it. It's your promise to the world to do so, and I truly believe that.
That's very well put. I mean, we are human. We are not invulnerable to what's going on, and I think that we can allow the negativity to rule our world, or we can allow to acknowledge that it's there and move on. I don't remember who said it first. I guarantee it was some other speaker I was watching. Is that they said something to the fact, if I'm going to misquote, and I don't remember the speaker, I'm not going to let somebody else's hate enter my room and change my reality. I'm not going to let somebody else's ignorance take over my world. And I have a choice. I have a choice to be who I am. And I can learn from the experience, or I can stay where I am. And I can't remember the speaker, and I probably took a little bit out of context there, but boy, I've read criticisms before, and it was a great way of, bringing that in. It's, that's what I say. I've no words. Sometimes you can't have, there's a difference between criticism and ignorance. There's also a difference between having a battle of wits with somebody that's non-armed. Are you just throwing out information just to be hateful, or are you actually trying to give criticism to improve?
Well said. And I love all that you've said there. And, when it comes to people that are critics and they're looking at us and telling us what we should do and how we should do it better, there is learning within that, I think, as long as it's coming from the voice of somebody that you want to learn it from. And especially if, it's a bunch of strangers, we have to consider the fact that if I were holding up a big whiteboard and I drew a little black dot right in the middle, you could ask somebody, hey, what do you see? And they'd be like, a black dot. That's how we feel about ourselves, even after a standing ovation performance, which I know you're familiar with feeling and receiving. And then we get maybe 2 people after 1,000 patting us on the back at the cruise ship performance or at the corporate convention, and they're going, that was the best thing I've ever seen. And 2 people might say, that was okay. And we walk away like, it was okay. Those 2 guys killed me. We have to shift that mindset to say, okay, I don't know what they were thinking. They were the outliers. I'm going to keep going with my message, my mantra, just keep shedding light, spreading light however I can.
So let's talk about that, though. Let's talk about this transition for you as you've become an extremely popular and sought after speaker and now author. Where was that transition for you? Where was that shift for you, and what can you share with others?
Well, candidly, I started my career 20 years ago as a performer in Las Vegas. I was singing. I was doing impressions of people like Ricky Martin, the less handsome Ricky of the Ricky genre. Come on, Ricky Kalmon, that's funny. And Elton John. And so I was an impersonator of those guys. I could do the voices very good, like, Living La Vida Loca. And then Elton John was, can you feel the love tonight? So I was good at impersonating people. But before that all started 20 years ago, I had a dream that I wanted to become a motivational speaker because I had seen these speakers. I had read all the books, the How to Win Friends and Influence People, The Power of Positive Thinking, The Greatest Salesman in the World, Think and Grow Rich, all the books. And I wanted to put that in somehow. So as I created a show that was entertaining and was clean and family friendly, I became a corporate entertainer. That's where my career went. And throughout all of that, I would always share a positive, friendly message. Eventually, about 15 years ago, I had a company say, that was such a great Christmas party we just had. Thank you very much. But you were teaching leadership while you did your funny stuff. And I said, really? I didn't know you would get that out of that. But yes, I meant that. And they had me come in and do a speech, which was frankly awful. Because when you're an entertainer first, you're leaning into, I got to get him, I got to get him, I got to get him, I got to deliver, I got to get him. And when you're a speaker, it's like, you got to get him, and then you got to settle into the pocket and let it simmer. And you're becoming a teacher, an educator, an engager still. But as the entertainer, I was just like, how do I keep it rolling? Da, 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 da. So this transition, Ricky, really came full circle by about 2016 when I was finally like on my website. I said, okay, the entertainment is off the site and I'm just the keynote speaker now. And that really confused my market. Let's be honest. You know, all my clients were like, wait a minute, you don't sing anymore? You don't do your funny faces anymore? And I go, no, it's all part of the package, but I'm leading as a keynote speaker. So, I mean, rebranding wise, been a nightmare, you know, but I've just had to go get all new clients. And now it's funny, Ricky, because I wrote the book, now they're all coming back. The ones that had me as the entertainer guy 10 years ago, who never thought leadership speaker was in there, now they're coming back going, hey, I saw you wrote a book. Hey, I see you're still entertaining in those videos. I see you're still good at, you know, you can do it virtual. And the next thing I know, my calendar's pretty much never been busier, man. It's been amazing of a transition.
I can attest to that. I totally understand where you're coming from, you know, and I share a very similar story is that for, 33 plus years, I had been doing a very unique comedy show, but at the same time, I was leading people into a wellness program that would exceed their own expectations from small groups to very large. And, there was a transition. There were times that I failed. There are still times that I fail, but I look at ways of always building and growing as not only a speaker, trainer, or coach. I can totally empathize with you and understand your journey in a certain way. And you're right, though. We are pleasers. We try to please everybody. We're not going to get everybody. No matter whether we were doing our show for entertainment or we do a program that we truly feel and have a lot of passion about, not going to get everybody, but we try to keep people's attention, and we're going to try and keep your attention if you're watching and listening now. So, all right. So let me ask you a question. Let's talk a little bit about. I want to know about the book because everybody, a lot of people can write a book, but it's about writing a book, about really putting content in there. Where did it start?
Well, I tried for years to write a book. I mean, I wrote a book called Signature Moves over a decade ago. People didn't get it. It didn't have its real genre or place. It was like a mix between self-help, autobiography, and a bunch of leadership attempts. And it was a good try. It was a little pocket book. 5 years later, I tried to do a revamped version of it, and that was a disaster because of the cover I chose, which was just a picture of my mouth. I'm not kidding. Maybe someday someone will find it on eBay because they're trying to get rid of it. Honestly, this book did not do well. And so why am I taking you down this route? Because it took me so long to get this book to make sense to me enough to share it with the world. And so I've taken the best of the stuff I had written previous, and I've then shared all of these new stories, anecdotes, ideas, concepts, things like the ICM process, which transforms people's ability to understand who they are, how they can find more happiness and live a greater life of joy. And then the promise to the one, I didn't start there. I started with just the promise, which there are many elements to a promise, whether it's a promise to your company that you work for, your clients that you serve, your family, your team that you work with. Well, we had to start somewhere because that book would be like 1,000 pages. I would never finish it. And I tried to write it, Ricky. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until I said, we need to start with the promise to the one. The one is not your boss. It's not your wife. It's you. Mm-hmm. So the promise to the one is you. Let's start there. Let's build upon a foundation of integrity, of character. And that's how the book finally came to pass. And after years of thinking about it, years of trying and setting goals to pretend that I was writing every day, yeah, I'm writing today. Yeah. I never got anywhere until I finally made a promise to write the book. And after all those years of percolating, in a 3-day blast, 50,000 words came out of me.
That's so awesome. Well, let me ask you a question. As you were writing the book, and even now, as the book is finished and it's in the hands of people, I know you've kind of answered this already, but I'm going to ask you, what's your purpose? What's the
Well,
purpose of the, what, if you had to sum it up very quickly, and somebody goes, well, why would I read you? What's the purpose of me reading the book? You already said it, but I want to hear what your standard example is.
yeah, the standard example from what I would say as far as your purpose is, what is your promise to live in this life? What is your promise and purpose to serve the world? For me, it's to spread joy, whether that's in a performance on a stage, whether that's on a virtual call or a podcast, even in my social media on LinkedIn or Facebook, I'm posting positive, joyful things. At least I try. And that becomes my promise and my purpose. And that's what this book helps take us through, is how do we really define what our purpose and our promise is?
Okay, so let's go to the next step. As somebody reads your book and actually finishes the book, because there's a lot of people that start, and we hope, and as an author too, we hope we keep them all the way through. We hope we get them to constantly want to, follow the plan, because we put the words there. They're not just fluff to fill pages. We really do put a lot of meaning into putting these books together and offering good content with value, not just recycled messages. What do you want somebody to say about your book after they're done? If you weren't in the room, but if you were eavesdropping, what would you want somebody to say about your book?
I would first of all want them to say how thrilled they are that I'm not the perfect guy who keeps every promise, and I shared how vulnerable I am at not doing it well. And thus the reason for everyone needing the book, to look at their life, to assess themselves and where they're going. And then I really love the responses that I'm getting, whether it is in secret or it is from reviews on Amazon and so forth, where people say, oh my gosh, I've never done exercises like this before, and it just changed the way that I live my life. Instead of just setting goals, I'm now going to make promises and keep them.
What would you say to the person, and I've come across this too, by the way, so it's not just me throwing it out there. There are people that are not skeptical, but just hesitant that reading a book like this is going to make a difference in their life.
What do I say to them?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing as if somebody heard about hypnosis and didn't think it would work for them as well. It's like, hey,
By the way,
give
I
it
don't
a
believe in
try.
hypnosis either. No.
Give it a try. I dare you. I mean, really, it's more of a dare. I mean, the problem that most people have is once they start to dig into their own character, into their own foundational beliefs, once we really start to dig down into that, we start to write in a journal, maybe for the first time, or really assess what we've been writing.
Right.
The next thing we really see is who we really are. And a lot of us don't want to face that fear. We don't want to face that, mediocrity or the things we failed at. And this is a direct, hey man, you got to face the darkness to find the light, and you have the light already. So let's do this together.
I think you're right, Jason. I think that people are, nobody likes pain. Nobody likes to be ridiculed. Nobody likes to feel like a failure. And by the way, nobody starts something to fail, and sometimes we don't do things in the first place because we think we're going to fail. So why start in the first place? There's nobody getting in line, to jump into feeling bad. We get in line to feel good sometimes. And I think that you make a very good point, is that, I think we have to sometimes in life, no matter who you are, whether you are a CEO of a company or leading an organization of 5 people or 500, or if you're a sales individual or in customer service, I think it's diving in deeper to ourselves. And would you agree this, when we serve ourselves better, it not only makes us feel good, but it shows to everybody else. And I'm not just saying that like, oh, just feel great and everything's going to be awesome. No, I'm not. I think you have to believe it to achieve it, but you have to believe it to see it.
Totally. Beautifully said. And yeah, I mean, you're not driving anywhere without putting gas in the car. And so, that's where this is all coming from. If we really truly feel we can serve others, that we can be all that we can be in our job, with our family, with every connection, then what about us?
Right.
And so this challenges that, whether it's your health or your habits, whether it's your your willingness to accept yourself. And so it just makes you look in the mirror a little bit closer and say, am I really feeding myself what I need to? Am I listening to the podcast that I should? Am I filling my life and my head with goodness? Or are there a few things that I can change? And Ricky, the answer is heck yes, all of us can. This is not to beat us up. This is mostly a practice in forgiveness. And then we can say, I can forgive myself for promises broken yesterday. I can make new promises tonight and keep my life even greater tomorrow by keeping these promises.
Right. Yeah, that's well said. It's okay. Sometimes we put up this shield and we forget we're human. And I've said this before. I think that we just have to, acknowledge that and just be present, accepting. I mean, what I like about you is that you're not just telling a story and telling people think great, feel great, and you're sharing life stories. You're sharing your own experiences. You're sharing your failures. You're showing that you're human, and I think that's the connection. Why I think your audiences have followed you for years, because even when you're performing, Jason, it doesn't feel like you're performing. You're just being you, and you're talking and engaging the audience. The cool thing about these videos, and even the virtual world now, and I told somebody this the other day, is that although you and I thrive off of an audience, small or large, we try to get the person in the back of the room. We want everybody engaged. We strive that. We try to make ourselves as larger than life so we know that we are there. Nobody wants to see somebody just stand there in one stance and just talk like they're looking at nothing. But the cool thing about this is that we're pivoting to a different way of learning, and this is really exciting. I mean, we have look at it this way. We've even changed the words of virtual calls. We call them, hey, you want to Zoom? You want to Zoom? Well, Zoom is just one platform. There's like 90 other platforms. It's like Kleenex or tissue. You want a Kleenex or tissue? Or no, you follow what I'm saying. We're teaching ourselves a different way of learning. And my point is that you and I can now talk to an audience sitting at home, watching on their phones, an iPad. They can sit outside, and we can reach a much broader audience by these podcasts. People can learn from them. You can learn from Jason's book, or you can choose not to. You can choose to do the same thing over and over again and stay very static. And our job is to motivate people to try something different. We get excited about this. I mean, Jason, I'm sure I know you do these podcasts. I know you're on these interviews. I know you do your virtual shows and your programs of motivation. This isn't work for you. This is exciting. I'm sure sometimes it's work. You got to do a couple of things. You feel a little, but we get excited about this. We get pretty jazzed, but we also get jazzed and excited when we could reach an audience in a different way. I know I went on a tangent. Sorry, I got excited.
No, it's totally right, man. I did an actual live event this week with 40 people present, just all spread out with their masks. It was outside. It was very safe. And I thought it would be so awesome because I was so excited to finally not do a virtual event again and see, oh, I'm back to my stomping ground. This is my place. And I'm just telling you, my friend, I mean, it was cool. I got a standing ovation. They wanted an encore. That doesn't really happen on a virtual call. But,
it does. It does, because I'm the only one who's standing. I'm standing. Right. I get my own standing ovation.
I was like, man, I came home to my wife. She said, how was it? Was it so awesome? And I was like, it was okay. Like, it was kind of a letdown because I think we built up so much in our minds that the stage is where it's at. That's the best of all worlds for us as performers. We want that interaction with the audience. And I'm telling you, I still believe that is a superior feeling. However, in a virtual setting, it's just you and me, one-on-one. Like you and me on this call right now, we don't know who's going to be listening, but the listener, I'm now in their ear. This is a way different experience. I now feel like Ricky Kalmon doing a hypnotist show, and I'm getting in their head, and I get to talk and use my voice to be able to get them to say 3, 2, 1, asleep. And no, or wake up, you're driving.
Yeah,
And so I'm telling you, I love the virtual platform.
I do.
I don't get the feedback I want because I'm not hearing the claps and I'm not seeing the laughs. But here's what I really love, which I never knew was possible. If they open the chat and I get to actually read their thoughts on what I'm performing about,
Yeah.
that's mind blowing to me. And I love that.
Yeah, it is cool. You know, it's nice to, get off of a virtual training call and then immediately get gratification by somebody sending an email or a text message or friending you on Facebook or LinkedIn and engaging the audience in a different way. And you and I will be back to doing live shows in front of thousands of people. You'll be back in Vegas or Chicago or New York, and I'll be doing the same thing. And our paths are going to cross in an airport, I'm sure. However, this pivot for us is pretty awesome, and we really hope that by watching this podcast and putting out more information, people get to know us a little bit more. We welcome them in this is my home, it's your home office. We're being transparent, and I think that's a cool thing, and you're able to talk to an audience, and I feel like I'm talking directly or listening directly, to you as though we're on the call. Put the book up again. Let's see that book.
I have to use this little, there we are.
There you go. The Promise to the One, available on Amazon. Here, I know Jason's would really appreciate this, so I'm going to say it. Order the book, but as an author myself, really hope you get something out of it. Leave a review, and don't just hit that 5-star because we want you to. Write something. What did you get out of it? I asked a question earlier in the podcast. What do you want your readers to get out of it? And we really hope you do. So when you're reading Jason's book, take a few moments, write a little review of what you got out of it, not just, hey, great book, thanks for putting it out there. Share it with others, because if you're anybody like me, I read reviews and I can always tell if somebody just whipped through it and just put whatever somebody wanted. Share an experience, share a story. You don't have to write a novel. 2 or 3 sentences probably makes a huge difference. And I'm sure Jason would appreciate it. Follow him on social media, and you can follow me. And I'm going to put all the information about Jason and who he is, more about his background, of course, at rickykalmon.com. Of course, that's the spelling. rickykalmon.com. And as always, my friends, we thank you. Please share this podcast with others. Hit the like button. And right there. Jason, before we go, anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to throw out there? As I've cheerleaded for you for a few moments.
You're awesome. Thank you for that plug. And yes, you're right. The reviews make a big difference. It's mostly about changing somebody's perspective in their life and their mindset, no question. Because when we change the mind, we change our actions. And the next thing we know, we're leading the life that we were meant to live. And we're sharing our voice only we can. I call it a signature move, just like any artist would have, like Louis Armstrong. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world, doo-ba-doo-doo. You must share your voice. That's your promise, and I hope that you'll keep the promise.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing today. I look forward to seeing you again, and please come back on your next book. And I guarantee you, I know that there's one already there, so please do that. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.